In 2020, my journey as a doctor took an abrupt change and I embarked on a completely new path. Although my husband Mark quit his practice in 2016 due to dissatisfaction with the medical system, it was the COVID-19 fraud that completely woke us up to the full nature of allopathy. We did not even know it was called that and simply knew it as conventional medicine prior to 2020. On this untrodden path, we were brought into contact with the work of Dr. Ulrich Williams, a mid-20th century New Zealand physician who, like us, renounced his allopathic training and became a proponent of naturopathy. His words contain so much wisdom, with simple and yet profound advice about how to be well in this world. Like a gift that keeps giving, we have found that you can go back to his work and garner even deeper perceptions second time around. So in this video, I'm going to outline 10 truths about health we were never taught. One, the orthodox healing system has failed because from our too narrow and materialistic outlook, we have conceived of disease as something attacking us from without due to germs, whereas disease, whether of body, mind, soul or estate, is mostly a gradual degenerative process going on within due to failure to comply with the requirements of well-being. This succinctly sums up the trap of the medical system, as well as the disproven germ hypothesis. It can be seductive to believe that we are being attacked by germs, or have inherited bad genes, or some other factor outside of our control is to blame for poor health. That relieves us of the responsibility for our own health, or that of our dependents. The industry is happy for us to believe this, and you may recall during the COVID event, they tried to bewilder people further by telling them to avoid doing their own research and to only listen to the approved experts. What they hide is that most disease builds slowly from within and is a failure to comply with the requirements of well-being. It comes down to the hundreds of choices we make every day with regard to how we think and how we live. A doctor or a quote expert cannot fix those things with a label, a pharmaceutical, or a procedure. 2. The whole complicated system of orthodox modern diagnosis and treatment is based upon a misconception that mistakes the symptom for the disease, and tinkering with effects while the cause is ignored and allowed to continue always has been and always will be followed by deplorable consequences. This follows on nicely from the first point and the misconception of how disease develops in the first place. And while Dr. Ulrich Williams was pointing out the complicated diagnostic system in the mid-20th century, it has evolved into something even more preposterous. In 2024, John Rappaport reported that according to the establishment, there were now around 44,000 official diseases. This number of diseases leads to thousands of testing and treatment protocols and staggering expenses that continue to climb. But most importantly here, the problem is mistaking the symptoms for the disease. The symptoms are the body's attempts to correct a situation or heal itself. Allopathic medicine aggressively combats these symptoms, and any suppression is seen as a success. For example, you can watch my presentation on fever to see why it is part of the healing process and how suppressing it leads to short-term relief, but potential long-term problems. Even worse is when a person is labelled with an allopathic diagnosis and they are put on lifelong medications. It is a complete failure to correct any underlying causes and simply adds another chemical that the body needs to eliminate. Remember, you do not become unwell due to a petrochemical pharmaceutical deficiency. 3. Disease is not some mysterious, inscrutable entity that attacks healthy people. Those who live healthily seldom become sick. We make ourselves ill. Believe it or not, I was essentially taught the opposite at medical school. In fact, it is very common for doctors to develop anxiety during their training, as they are led to believe that cancer and hundreds of other serious conditions could strike them at any time. I've even seen medical students in the emergency department who thought they had a life-threatening disease after over-interpreting bodily sensations.
You can't see it. You can't feel it. Yet thousands of men and women are dying from high blood pressure. It strikes without warning in many ways, including stroke, heart attack, and kidney failure. Check your pressure. If you have high blood pressure, stay on your medication, because the silent killer may be stalking you. Don't think just because you feel good, the killer won't strike. High blood pressure, what you don't know about it can kill you.
On the issue of responsibility, there are some caveats here. For example, children and dependents rely on the care of parents and caregivers for their health. Additionally, you cannot always stop intentional acts of harm against you. However, outside of those, the individual is responsible for their own health. In this regard, disease builds up over time through all the things we eat, the thoughts that go through our minds, and all of the choices we make in our everyday lives. 4. If there ever existed, there does not and never will, the man who could cure by medicine or surgery and immunize by vaccine. He would be the greatest enemy of man who ever lived. Once the basis of disease is appreciated, the majority of allopathic medical methods are revealed as preposterous. However, populations have been mesmerized into thinking that swallowing synthetic chemicals, removing parts of our bodies, and injecting the products of disease are ways to make us healthy. It is through this scam that the medico-pharmaceutical industry has become an all-encompassing juggernaut. As Ulrich Williams pointed out so long ago, any practitioner who believed they could cure this way would be the greatest enemy of man who ever lived. 5. Symptoms are of dual significance. They are nature's warnings of deflection from the law. They are also evidence of nature's method of cure. While many people will report symptoms when they first notice them, far too few connect the dots to realize that it is their way of living that has led to the flashing of a warning light. They want the symptoms to go away naturally, but don't want to make the required lifestyle changes. Continuing to ignore nature's laws, the problem persists or worsens. So what happens next? In the words of Dr. Williams, along comes a medicine man, misinformed as to the nature of these symptoms and how they are caused, tears up the wigwag, muffles the signals, silences the warnings, and so, while the danger still rushes upon him, deludes the victim into a false and frequently fatal sense of security. This is why we tell people that going to see an allopathic doctor can end up being fatal, literally. The additional wisdom lies in recognizing that the symptoms indicate how the body is trying to heal, and it is attention to these that usually reveals the cure. 6. Operations, unfortunately, are among the most lucrative items of the orthodox stock and trade. They must be sold, otherwise it is improbable that people will buy. The people, rightly, fear operations, but they can be made to fear sickness more, and the fear urge is widely employed. You may have noticed that governments like to skite about how many elective surgeries are done each year, while their, quote, critics argue that it is not enough. It is as though the wealthier a country becomes, the more operations we should be performing. The great con is that the vast majority of these surgeries should not be done in the first place. However, surgical procedures bring huge amounts of revenue to the industry. The money and phony prestige has convinced the public that the remedies must indeed be truly powerful, if not the very pinnacle of healthcare. On top of that, when people have been subjected to continuous fear campaigns, it is surprising how quickly they will submit to the scalpel. 7. 3 factors make cancer fatal. 1. Continuation of the cause. 2. Orthodox efforts to cure. 3. Fear and mistaken belief in incurability. When I was working in the medical system, the diagnosis of cancer was regarded as a picture of the person's life, in effect giving the essential information. Although certain risk factors may have been documented in the workup, there was no focus on why the person got to this critical point. Instead, it was all about making the diagnosis with imaging, blood tests, and tissue biopsies, because these factors are the major considerations when deciding how the, quote, treatment will proceed. This is because allopathic medicine essentially holds that most cancers just happen to people unexpectedly. Dr. Ulrich Williams denounced such thinking and brought the focus back on the individual's lifestyle, including dietary patterns, body habitus, exercise, psychological state, and ways of thinking. In every case, some or all of these things needed correcting. He pointed out the strange orthodox belief that agents that cause cancer, such as radiation and chemotherapy drugs, could be used as curatives for cancer. Just as vitally, he discouraged patients from thinking that cancer was a death sentence. Instead, he warned that continuation of their current lifestyle could be fatal. The power was in their hands, and there was no need for expensive or complicated treatments. 8. The whole tendency of orthodox medicine is to create and perpetuate sickness and make it attractive to those lacking the moral qualities to live healthily. In case there was any doubt about how serious he was about the first part of that sentence, Dr. Ulrich Williams also said, the modern medical system, to the extent of perhaps 80%, is nothing but a gigantic, cruel, ludicrous, lucrative, transparent fraud. Such a statement would have shocked me in the earlier part of my medical career, whereas today my only criticism would be that 80% is an underestimate of how much of the medical system is based in fraud. Unfortunately, the system preys on that lazy aspect of human nature, where people want to believe that they can outsource or purchase their health. It is a seductive model, leading the victims into swallowing drugs and undergoing procedures, rather than making the required lifestyle changes to bring about true health. 9. Perhaps the worst crime of modern medical so-called science is the increasingly effective suppression of acute illnesses. Usually, successful suppression has one of 4 consequences. 1. The sufferer is killed. 2. A foundation is laid for chronic and often incurable disease. 3. Nature, if she can, will after period intervals stage more of these would-be spring cleanings or healing crises. 4. Nature may effect a cure in spite of treatment, in which case the doctor will claim and probably get full credit for recovery. Those 4 consequences hopefully explain themselves. For those not familiar with healing crises, these are the body's attempts to bring about a cure. While the allopathic system considers measles, boils, bronchitis, and common colds as specific diseases, if not diagnoses, these are simply examples of healing crises. They represent the body's concerted effort to eliminate toxic and unnecessary material in a decisive manner. A healing crisis often follows earlier and milder processes that may not have been noticed by the individual. 10. The power who designed the miracle of the human body was not inept and likely to overlook provision for its maintenance and health. Are we to believe that God created this wonder with its infinite complexity of reaction and left it at the mercy of the first or any hostile germ that happened to cross its path? For Mark and I, this was the realization in 2020 that caused a paradigm shift in our appreciation of what health is and the gifts we have been given. In 2021, the words of Dr. Ulrich Williams reinforced the realization. Our old way of thinking was that you did the best you could with health matters, but unfortunately, many illnesses could still strike you down randomly or were simply to be expected with aging. Our new way of thinking is that we have been given a magnificent mind and body that strives towards perfection. It will always return to balance unless we are foolish enough to interfere with its marvelous mechanisms. Prior to 2020, we assumed our family had a healthy lifestyle, and I guess compared to many, we were doing okay. However, since then we have completely overhauled the food we eat, the water we drink, where we live, and equally importantly, the way we think. Many of these changes were inspired by Dr. Ulrich Williams. Now, whenever we are making these decisions, we bring it back to the simple and yet profound maxim of, are we engaging in right thinking and right living? From our experience, obtaining all the new knowledge can be daunting at the start, but when you put it into action, the process gets easier, as the same principles always apply. And as I said in my foreword, hints on healthy living brought so much wonderful wisdom to my family. And now, with my best wishes, I hope to pass Dr. Williams' wisdom onto you with this rekindled version called Terrain Therapy. There is a video of my complete foreword for Terrain Therapy at drsambailey.com, including several options for how you can secure a copy. Our website also provides lots of free content, with the search bar taking you to the hundreds of topics we have covered and keep adding to every week. If you enjoyed this video, please visit supportdrsam.com